Ever noticed how the louder you speak, the less people listen? How the more you defend yourself, the easier it is for them to twist your words. It's almost like the truth doesn't matter, only the reaction does. And the ones who lie, deceive, and manipulate, they walk away untouched while you're left exhausted, fighting a battle you can never win. But what if I told you that silence is the real weapon? That the moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop giving them a reaction, karma steps in and does the job for you. Picture a fire. The more you feed it, the bigger it grows. But when you starve it of oxygen, it dies on its own. That's exactly how drama works. Some people thrive on pulling you into their chaos, making you defend yourself, making you fight to prove something. But the second you refuse to play their game, everything changes. The lies they spread, they circle back. The betrayal, it haunts them. The disrespect, it turns into regret. Because karma is patient, but it never forgets. You have a choice. Fall into their trap, waste your energy, and let them control the story. Or step back, let silence speak, and watch as the universe delivers justice in ways you never could. And trust me, when karma moves, it hits harder than any argument ever could. So when is silence your greatest power? When should you stop fighting and let karma do the talking? Stay with me, because the last one will change how you see everything. Let's begin. If this lesson hit home, if you've ever held back your words and watched karma do its work, then you know the power of silence. We're here to bring you more game-changing insights that shift your perspective, protect your energy, and help you move smarter in life. So if you found value in this, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed silent and let karma handle it? What happened next? Let's talk. Number 1. When they spread lies, stay silent and watch their own words destroy them. Lies are like wildfire, fast, destructive, and fueled by every reaction you give them. The moment someone spreads falsehoods about you, the instinct is to fight back, set the record straight, and make sure the truth wins. But here's the harsh reality. The more you defend yourself, the more you give the lie power. The louder you protest, the guiltier you look. And the person who started it? They don't care about the truth. They care about control. They want you rattled, emotional, and caught in a fight where every word you say becomes proof against you. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That is the standard you must hold yourself to. Others may lie, deceive, and manipulate, but their actions do not define you. Your response does. And the strongest response? Silence. Lies have an expiration date, but truth is timeless. Think of a calm ocean. No matter how many stones someone throws, the water eventually settles. Your job is to be that ocean, unshaken, unmoved. If you chase every rumor, you become part of the storm. But if you hold your ground, time reveals everything. I knew a man, let's call him James. He was falsely accused of something at work. The whispers spread, colleagues pulled away, and he felt the urge to explain himself. But instead, he chose silence. He stayed focused, did his job, and let his actions speak. Weeks later, the truth surfaced. The person who spread the lies had a history of deception. James didn't have to fight. The truth fought for him. His silence kept his dignity intact, while the liar's own pattern exposed them. So, When lies are thrown at you, trust in the long game. People who deceive always expose themselves eventually. Stay grounded, be patient, and let karma do its work. Because when the dust settles, the only thing left standing is the truth, and you'll still have your dignity intact. Number 2. When betrayal stings, walk away without a word and let karma cut deep. Betrayal is a blade that always comes from behind. Whether it's a friend who turns on you, a partner who breaks your trust, or someone you once believed in who lets you down, the pain cuts deeper than words can express. And your first instinct? Confrontation. You want to demand answers, force an apology, or make them understand the damage they've done. But here's the hard truth. Nothing you say will change a betrayer's heart. A person who betrays you has already convinced themselves they were right. In their mind, they've justified their actions, excused their behavior, or worse, convinced themselves that somehow it was your fault. No explanation will make them see their mistake. No argument will make them feel the depth of your pain. If you try, they will twist your words, shift the blame, and somehow turn themselves into the victim. And suddenly, you're not just hurt, you're tangled in a battle where they dictate the rules. This is why silence is the most powerful response. Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Betrayal is one of life's hardest trials, but it also serves a purpose. It reveals who truly deserves a place in your life. It forces you to build stronger boundaries. And most of all, it teaches you that some losses are actually wins. Sarah learned this lesson the hard way. For over 10 years, she trusted her best friend with everything: her struggles, her dreams, her secrets. Then one day, she found out that the same friend had been exposing her private conversations and sabotaging her behind her back. Sarah's first instinct was anger, confrontation, but instead, she did something far more powerful. She chose silence. No arguments, no second chances, just a clean break. And what happened? The friend, expecting a dramatic fight, was met with indifference. That silence. It spoke louder than any words ever could. So what do you do when someone betrays you? First, accept that they were never who you thought they were. The pain comes from expectation. Let it go. Second, don't waste your breath explaining their wrongdoing. They already know, even if they won't admit it. And finally, walk away with dignity. A betrayer thrives on reaction, on guilt, on second chances. Don't give them that satisfaction, because at the end of the day, you weren't the one who lost. They were. Number 3. When insults fly, refuse to react and watch their words lose power. Insults are nothing but bait, a cheap trick to pull you into a battle where your reaction is the prize. Whether it's a passive-aggressive jab, a backhanded compliment, or a straight-up attack, the goal is always the same: to get under your skin, make you react, and steal your power. And the moment you fire back, whether in anger or defense, you've already lost. You've given them exactly what they wanted: control over your emotions. Here's the truth. People who insult you aren't revealing anything about you. They're exposing themselves. Their words are mirrors, reflecting their own insecurities, their own frustrations, their own need to tear someone down just to feel taller. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that's the key. When someone acts small, the real power move is to remain big. The second you engage, you shrink yourself to their level. But when you stay calm, indifferent, and unshaken, their insult dies in the air, unanswered, making them look like the fool. A guy I know, let's call him David, once experienced this firsthand. At a work event, a jealous co-worker, bitter about David's recent promotion, took a public shot at him. Wow, guess they're handing out promotions to just anyone these days. The room went silent, waiting for David to snap back, but instead he simply smiled, made eye contact, and said nothing. No anger, no defense, just silence. And that silence, it was deafening. The co-worker, expecting a fight, was left standing there, awkward, exposed, and humiliated by his own pettiness. So how do you handle insults? First, recognize that their words hold no power unless you give them power. Second, understand that silence is your greatest response. It leaves the insulter empty-handed. And finally, carry yourself with confidence. Because at the end of the day, you can't control what people say, but you can control how much it affects you. And the moment you stop reacting, that's when you win. Number 4. When they play the victim, stay silent and let their own drama expose them. Some people don't seek truth, they seek attention. They rewrite reality, erase their own actions, and twist the story so they come out looking like the innocent one. You know the type. No matter what happens, somehow, they're always the victim. They shift blame, stir emotions, and manipulate people into seeing you as the villain. And the worst part? The more you try to defend yourself, the more you feed their false narrative. Suddenly, you're the aggressor, and they're just the helpless victim who was wronged. This is where most people get trapped. They argue, they explain, they desperately try to prove their innocence. But here's the truth. Engaging only gives the manipulator more ammunition. As Epictetus once said, to complain is always non-productive and never appropriate. People who constantly play the victim don't want resolution. They want control. They want an audience. But there's one thing they can't manipulate: silence. Think of it like a stage performance. A victim player thrives when they have an audience, feeding off the gasps and sympathy of those around them. But what happens when the audience leaves? The act falls apart. When you refuse to play your part, when you stop explaining and simply walk away, their script no longer works. I knew someone who dealt with this, a woman named Rachel. She had a co-worker who constantly played the victim, twisting every situation to gain sympathy. At first, Rachel tried to reason with her, proving her innocence with facts and logic. But the more she engaged, the worse it got. So, Rachel stopped. No more defending, no more justifying, just silence. And sure enough, over time, the pattern became obvious. People saw through the act. The co-worker had played the victim one too many times, and suddenly, no one believed her anymore. So how do you handle a victim player? Simple. You don't. You let their own lies unravel. You let karma expose them. Because in the end, the truth doesn't need your defense. Time will do that for you. Let them talk. Let them twist. Let them perform. Just don't give them an audience. Number 5. When they ignore your worth, disappear, and make them feel the void. Nothing stings quite like being overlooked by the people you give the most to. Whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or even a job, there comes a moment when you realize you're not being valued, you're being used. You show up, you support, You give, but instead of gratitude, you're met with indifference. Instead of respect, you're taken for granted. And the natural instinct? To prove your worth, to remind them of what you bring, to fight for recognition. But here's the truth. Begging for respect only makes people respect you less. The more you chase, the less they appreciate. The more available you are, the more they assume you'll always be there. People rarely value what they think they'll never lose. And that's why silence isn't just a reaction. It's your greatest weapon. Because when you stop explaining, stop proving, and stop giving your energy to those who don't see your worth, something shifts. The absence they once thought wouldn't matter suddenly feels like a loss. Seneca once said, "Time discovers truth." And that's exactly how it works. You don't have to argue. You don't have to convince anyone. You simply step back, and the truth reveals itself. Not through words, not through confrontation, but through absence. The people who genuinely valued you will notice. The ones who didn't, they were never meant to stay. A man I know, let's call him Jake, was always the one making the effort in his relationships. The friend who checked in, the co-worker who supported, the one who never let others feel alone. But one day, he realized something. If he didn't reach out, days, even weeks would pass in silence. He wasn't being appreciated. He was being convenient. So Jake made a choice. No anger, no explanations, just silence. And you know what happened? The people who truly cared noticed and reached out. The ones who only saw him as an option disappeared. And that was his answer. So if someone ignores your worth, don't waste your breath trying to make them see it. Step back, observe, and let time do the work. If they only realize your value after you're gone, then they never truly valued you at all. Let your absence teach the lesson your presence never could. Number 6. When they try to provoke you, stay unshaken and watch them crumble. Some people don't want peace. They want a reaction. They poke, prod, and stir the pot, hoping to pull you into their chaos. And the moment you snap, argue, or defend yourself, they win. Because it was never about the truth or resolution. It was always about control. They don't care about the argument itself. They care about watching you lose control. This is where real strength is tested. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." You can't stop people from provoking you, but you can decide whether or not you let them affect you. And when you master that, you become untouchable. Think of a skilled boxer. The weakest fighter throws wild punches, desperate to land a hit. But the strongest one, he dodges. He lets his opponent tire themselves out. That's how you handle people who want to provoke you. Not by swinging wildly, but by refusing to step into the ring. I knew a man, let's call him Adam. He had a co-worker who lived for drama, throwing little insults and sarcastic comments his way. At first, Adam fought back, trying to defend himself, but it only made things worse. Every reaction was fuel. Then, one day, Adam did something different. The next time his co-worker threw a jab, Adam just smiled, nodded, and moved on, like it didn't even matter. And that's when the real power shift happened. The co-worker kept trying, but without a reaction, his words lost their power. Eventually, he gave up. So how do you handle people who provoke you? First, recognize the game. If someone consistently tries to get under your skin, it's not an accident, it's a tactic. Second, Stay calm. Your silence and indifference frustrate them more than any argument ever could. And finally, understand that true strength isn't about reacting. It's about refusing to let anyone control your emotions. At the end of the day, the strongest person in the room isn't the one who yells the loudest. It's the one who remains unshaken while everyone else loses control. Number 7. When they regret losing you, stay gone and let the silence haunt them. Regret is a cruel teacher, but some lessons can only be learned through loss. When someone takes you for granted, mistreats you, or fails to appreciate your worth, there comes a moment when reality hits them. They realize what they had, but by then, it's too late. And that's exactly how it should be. Because if someone truly valued you, they never would have risked losing you in the first place. People don't always recognize gold when it's in their hands. They assume it will always be there, always available, always forgiving. But the moment it's gone, the silence becomes unbearable. That's when the weight of their choices sinks in. That's when every careless word, every ignored effort, every moment they took you for granted replays in their mind like a haunting echo. And the worst part? There's nothing they can do to take it back. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." True power isn't in chasing or convincing. It's in knowing when to walk away and never look back. Real self-respect means refusing to be an option for someone who treated you like an afterthought. You don't need to argue, explain, or remind them of what they lost. Let them sit in their own regret. Let them feel the absence of what they once had and failed to cherish. I knew a woman, let's call her Olivia. She poured everything into a relationship, her love, time, and loyalty. But her partner never truly saw her worth. He assumed she would always be there, no matter how little effort he put in. Until one day, she was gone. No dramatic exits, no long explanations, just silence. At first, he thought she was bluffing, but when days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the truth hit him. He had lost something irreplaceable. By the time he reached out, Olivia had already moved on. So when someone regrets losing you, don't give them an easy way back. If they only appreciate you after you're gone, they never truly valued you. Let their regret be their burden, not yours. Stay gone, stay silent, and let karma do the rest. At the end of the day, silence is more powerful than words. It protects your peace, exposes the truth, and forces people to face the weight of their own actions. Not every battle is worth fighting, and sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and letting karma do its job. If this resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed silent and watched karma unfold? What happened? Let's talk.